Hello everybody. Sorry I can't be there today. We had an incident on the trampoline, if you want to consider it as being PE during remote learning. We had a foot meet a tooth on the trampoline. So now my son has a cut on his heel, and my youngest daughter has a hole in her lip where her tooth went through to cut my son's heel. So she's having surgery. So I'm not going to be there today because I don't know what's going on. Hopefully everything will be okay. But I thought I'd put this video together to take you through this. So it's pretty much like what's been happening with theories. That's what we're having a look at today. And we're going to go, and I'm going to give you with some theory for today. And we're going to start off with this problem. This problem here, I've got it in paint. The idea of this problem is these are all pillars or something, I guess you'd call them, I don't know. And the idea is that they store water. So we can store an amount of water here, we can store an amount of water here, here, and so on. What you've got to do is to work out the largest amount of water that can be stored. So for example, this distance between all the piers, did I call them piers? I can't remember what I called them. The distance between all of these is the same. Okay, so I'm not going to give it a number. I'll give it a number in the example, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. It's up to you to think about what number you want to give it. Let's say this is 5. And then if we were to fill this first section up with water, we can only go to the height of the lowest thing. So it's 5 by 1, so we have 5 square units. We can have a look at this and say, oh, okay, here's a bigger one. If we go from here across, we've got 5 and we've got 5 here, so that makes 10. And we go to a height of 2, so we've got 10 by 2, which is 20 square units. What you've got to do is to not just work out what the maximum area will be, because that's straightforward, but write an algorithm which will compute the maximum area of that could be filled with water. You're gonna have to write it pseudocode is fine if you wanna make an algorithm, great. But it's basically taking this, making it abstract, and then trying to solve it. And the reason for that is, like I've said a number of times, it's not just about solving a problem that's this big. Our problem may be this big, or it may be this big, or it may be this big. So this is our inputs getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So what you've got to do is to work out where the maximum area will be and what that maximum area is based on this one back here. So I will start the slideshow with this slide, and that's what you're trying to work out, what the area is, what the maximum area is. If you're completely lost, if you need to talk, if you actually need to ask me questions about it, don't worry about it. We'll have a look at it next time. But I thought we'd go through this problem today on Wednesday. Okay, so we're going to look at more heuristics. Now, since we know that we can't solve or verify some problems in polynomial time, we need to combine a heuristic with a randomized selection to find a solution which is adequate, or a solution that works. It may seem odd that something random may be able to solve intractable problems, but combining these with conditional logic and computing power to allow repetitive operations may get us a workable solution to an intractable problem in reasonable time. So we have to have, so kind of like what we, just the nature of life in the universe and things like that, there is an element of randomness in there. And we need that because it just makes things easier. We can't have everything ordered, because as soon as we have everything ordered, we're restricted by what's happening. If we can add a little bit of randomness in there, it helps. It makes things a little bit, it makes things a little bit better. Now that happens because, like I said, we combine it with conditional logic. So we have it being random, but then we throw some logic in there. Does it work? Yes. If this works, great, we'll do something. If it doesn't, we go on and do something else. And we, like it says there, we combine it with computing power so that we can do lots of this. So we can perform lots of these random checks and do lots of different things to it. That gets us a solution to an intractable problem, like it says there, in a reasonable amount of time. So that's what's going on there. Now, next one. Like I said, there's some biology, and no, really, we're talking about this here. I wasn't expecting it either. So coinciding with this, if we consider evolutionary biology, I'm sorry to creationists, randomness tends to make sense. According to mathematical models, the evolution of life is based on random DNA mutations, which are maintained to ensure survival. Randomized heuristics work in a similar way. They make mutations, and I'm doing the air commas because that's what I'll be doing in class, or the air quotes, to their operations and keep the most favourable option on their way to a good solution. So, our DNA, GTCA, I don't know if you guys do biology, I'm not, I didn't do it, but I know of terms. Anyhow, your strands of DNA change. They're not always the same. And as you go from one generation to the next, it's not going to be exactly the same because then we have clones, but we don't clone. So because there are slight mutations to DNA, what ends up happening is that some of those mutations survive, some don't. Or sorry, some of those mutations work in the environment and some don't. And then what ends up happening is that it's a constant change. So we're not going to ever have, say, a perfect human, for example, or we're not going to have a perfect dog. We're going to have a human that is good enough, or we're going to have a dog that is good enough in that situation. If you have a look at, if you're interested, research Charles Darwin and the Galapagos Islands and the tortoises. I think it was tortoises or turtles. Tortoises on the islands. One island where the food was on the ground versus another island where the food wasn't on the ground. They had the tortoises have different shells. So over time, random mutations in DNA have made it so that the tortoise can lift its head up for where the food isn't on the ground versus one that's on the ground. And that's just random mutations that worked. So it would have taken thousands and thousands of generations for that to happen, but they were random. There would have been some mutations where the tortoise shell bent the other way and didn't work. So it's not so, but they've got this now. They've got like a little gap in the back of their shell, which works now. It does the job. It's not ideal. Like ideally, they'd be able to rear up on their hind legs and eat whatever they want, but they can't do that. They may in time, but they can't do that. So so this is a solution that works. It's not ideal, but it's a good solution. Okay, so back to traveling salesman. So a heuristic method, the solving traveling salesman. All we need to do is find any Hamiltonian circuit. So like it says there, a circuit that starts and ends with the same node visiting each node only once, and make some changes. These changes involve swapping edges of the graph and adding some intelligence into these swaps by utilizing things such as node location and implementing a best first search strategy. So what we're doing there is we know that the traveling salesman has to be a Hamiltonian circuit. We've got to start at one, got to go to all the other nodes, and we've got to come back. So we've got to start at the hometown, visit all the other towns, make money, and come back home. But what we can do is we can do that. We can find one. We can find a circuit, find an optimal route, find a route, and then make changes to it and say, oh, okay, this one's worse or this one's better. And the changes can be done not quite at random, but it says there we add some intelligence to it. So if we know two towns are near each other, we know to swap over a certain road. Or if we know two towns are far away from each other, we know to do something else with the road. Or something else with the road selection rather. That's what we know to do. And that's what it means there. But we make some changes, we add some intelligence to it, and then we go from there. And yes, best first search, as a number of people have asked, best first search is an example of a heuristic because of the way it works. No, and that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Page numbers. If you have a look at page 127 and onwards, they talk about that, and then we'll get into this idea of simulated annealing next time, hopefully. But I think I may have to give you guys a crash course in calculus. But that's all. I hope you have a good day. Hope you watched this. Hope you stuck around till the end. But I don't have anything else to say, so I'll end the video.